If you look at the coronation footage as the king and queen leave the thrones and head for the exit of Westminster Abbey on the coronation Saturday, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes. And that was because they were angry with Camilla.
For over 2 years, Queen Elizabeth's final will remain sealed, buried beneath royal law, hidden even from her own family. But in March 2025, everything changed. A single leak from Windsor Castle shattered decades of silence. And what it revealed wasn't jewels or estates. It was a name, repeated 7 times. Not Camilla, not Anne, Catherine, the commoner, the outsider, the woman Elizabeth quietly chose to carry her true legacy. Tonight, we uncover the secret decision that rewrote royal destiny. Because in the end, the crown's greatest treasure wasn't gold. It was trust, the document that shattered royal tradition. The leak came from an unexpected source. Not a disgruntled palace insider or a vengeful ex-employee, but from a mid-sized YouTube channel dedicated to tracking Windsor family secrets. On March 15th, 2025, at exactly 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, they published a video that would send shockwaves through every corner of the Commonwealth. Queen Elizabeth's secret will finally revealed, the title read. Within hours, it had accumulated over 4 million views. By week's end, the entire world was watching. The document they revealed wasn't complete, just fragments. Carefully photographed pages showing official letterhead, royal seals, and most importantly, names. Catherine's name appeared not once, but 7 times across the visible portions. Each mention carried weight. Each reference suggested responsibility far beyond what anyone had imagined. The response was immediate and visceral. Social media erupted with hashtags like #CatherineDeservesIt and #JusticeForCamilla. Royal watchers who had followed the family for decades found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about succession, power, and Elizabeth's true feelings about her family's future. But perhaps most telling was the silence from Buckingham Palace. No denials, no confirmations, just a kind of deafening quiet that speaks volumes in royal circles. What had Queen Elizabeth seen in Catherine that she hadn't found in anyone else? And why had she chosen to hide this decision from the very people it would affect most? Why royal will stay secret for 90 years? To understand the magnitude of this revelation, we must first understand the fortress of secrecy that protects royal wills from public scrutiny. In April 2021, following Prince Philip's death, Britain's High Court made a ruling that would reshape royal transparency forever. All senior royal wills, they declared, must remain sealed for 90 years. Not 10, not 20, 90 full years. The official reasoning spoke of preserving dignity and protecting family privacy. But legal scholars saw something deeper. This wasn't just about privacy. It was about power, about controlling narratives, about ensuring that the monarchy's most sensitive decisions remained hidden until everyone involved was long dead. The precedent reached back over a century to Queen Mary's controversial will in 1911. Rumors had swirled about missing jewels, questionable bequests, and family scandals that could have toppled the throne. The solution then, as now, was simple: buried in legal concrete and wait for time to heal all wounds. But in 2025, time wasn't healing anything. The leaked fragments of Elizabeth's had opened old wounds and created new ones. Critics argued that this level of secrecy was incompatible with modern democracy. How could an institution funded by taxpayers operate with less transparency than major corporations? The palace's response remained consistent: tradition, stability, and the greater good of the monarchy. But as public pressure mounted and questions multiplied, that response felt increasingly hollow. What secrets was a monarchy so desperate to protect? And why did those secrets seem to center around one woman who had never been born to rule? How Catherine became the heart of the monarchy. Princess Catherine's journey to this moment began long before any will was written. Since her marriage to Prince William in 2011, she had methodically built something rare in royal circles: genuine public trust. While other royals stumbled through scandals and controversies, Catherine remained steady, poised during public appearances, graceful under pressure, always appropriate, never scandalous. She had mastered the delicate art of being visible enough to matter, but never so prominent as to overshadow the crown itself. Her charitable work spoke to causes close to Elizabeth's heart: early childhood development, mental health awareness, supporting military families. Each patronage seemed carefully chosen not for publicity, but for genuine impact. She wasn't just attending ribbon cuttings and charity galas. She was building programs, funding research, and creating lasting change. Royal biographers noted a shift in her role around 2023, where once she had appeared alongside William at most events, she began taking solo engagements, important ones, meeting with world leaders, representing the crown at international ceremonies, speaking at major conferences with the confidence of someone who knew her words carried weight. Elizabeth, observers noted, was watching. The Queen's final public appearances often featured Catherine prominently, not pushed to the background as protocol might suggest, but positioned as an equal, a trusted advisor, someone whose opinion mattered. But trust in the royal family comes with a price. And as the will's contents became public knowledge, that price was about to be extracted from the one person who had perhaps trusted Catherine least of all: the pain behind Camilla's smile. The news reached Queen Camilla during what should have been a routine family briefing in early April 2025. Palace insiders describe her reaction as complete shock, followed by something far more painful: profound betrayal. For over 17 years, Camilla had stood beside Charles through every crisis. She had endured decades of public scrutiny, tabloid attacks, and constant comparison to Diana's memory. She had transformed herself from the other woman into a respected queen consort, and through it all, she had believed she held Elizabeth's grudging but genuine respect, though was suggested otherwise. According to sources close to the family, Camilla's first response was disbelief. "There must be some mistake," she reportedly told Charles. The Queen would never. But as the evidence mounted and the palace remained silent, disbelief gave way to something much darker. In the weeks following the revelation, Camilla's public appearances became noticeably fewer. When she did appear, royal watchers noted changes in her demeanor. The confident smile seemed forced. The easy interaction with crowds felt strained. Body language experts observed tension in her shoulders, distance in her eyes. Private sources painted an even more troubling picture. Staff at Highgrove House reported that the king and queen consort were rarely seen together. Meals taken separately. Schedules carefully coordinated to minimize contact. The fairy tale marriage that had finally found acceptance seemed to be cracking under the weight of Elizabeth's final judgment. But perhaps most heartbreaking were the small moments. Camilla walking alone through gardens she had once shared with Charles, standing apart from the family during private ceremonies. The isolation of someone who had fought for acceptance only to discover it had never truly been granted. What conversations had taken place between Elizabeth and Camilla that the public never knew about? Had there been warnings, signs, or had this devastating revelation come completely without warning? Charles caught between crown and heart. King Charles found himself in an impossible position. On one side stood his wife of nearly 2 decades, devastated by what felt like a posthumous rejection from his mother. On the other stood his daughter-in-law, thrust into a role she had never sought but seemed destined to fulfill. Palace sources suggested that Charles had known about at least some aspects of the will's contents, not the full document, but enough to understand that his mother had been making unconventional choices about the family's future. His public comments in the weeks following the leak were carefully neutral, speaking of family matters and private decisions without taking sides. But privately, the strain was showing. Courtiers noted changes in the king's routine: longer hours in his study, more time spent alone in the gardens at Highgrove, less enthusiasm for public engagements that once energized him. The situation put Charles in direct conflict with his own instincts. As a husband, he wanted to comfort Camilla and defend her position within the family. As a king, he needed to respect his mother's final wishes and maintain stability within the monarchy. As a father, he watched his son William navigate the impossible position of supporting his wife while maintaining family unity. Royal historians noted parallels to other moments when monarchs had been forced to choose between personal loyalty and royal duty. Edward VIII abdication, George VI reluctant acceptance of the crown, Elizabeth II owned early struggles with balancing family and state. But this situation felt different, more personal, more painful, because it wasn't about duty versus desire. It was about a mother's final judgment on her family's worthiness to carry on her legacy. And that judgment, it seemed, had found one person worthy above all others. The question was whether the family could survive that choice. A marriage now holding the monarchy. Prince William's response to his wife's unexpected inheritance revealed the strength of their partnership and the depth of his understanding of royal duty, rather than jealousy or concern about his own position. Sources close to the couple reported that William's first reaction was pride. He always knew Catherine was special, a longtime friend told royal correspondents. But seeing his grandmother recognize it so completely, it validated everything he believed about her from the beginning. The couple's public appearances in the weeks following the revelation were carefully choreographed studies in unity. At Children's Hospital visit in Leeds, they moved as a team, Catherine taking the lead in conversations with families, while William provided subtle support during a Commonwealth ceremony in Birmingham. Their body language spoke of complete trust and shared purpose. But behind closed doors, the pressure was immense. Catherine had never sought this level of responsibility or attention. She had built her royal role carefully, methodically, always with William's support and never overshadowing the established hierarchy. Now she found herself at the center of a family crisis that threatened to tear apart everything she had worked to build. William's role became that of protector and translator, shielding Catherine from the worst of the media speculation while helping her understand the full implications of Elizabeth's choice. Palace insiders describe hours-long conversations between the couple, working to the complex emotions and practical realities of their new situation. The children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, were kept largely unaware of the adult drama swirling around them, but staff noted increased security measures and more careful screening of their activities and interactions. For William, watching his wife navigate this unprecedented situation while maintaining grace under extreme pressure only confirmed what Elizabeth had apparently seen. Catherine wasn't just royal by marriage. She was royal by nature, the princess who never left. In the weeks following the will's revelation, comparisons between Catherine and Diana reached fever pitch. Social media filled with side-by-side photographs. The red coat at a charity event, the gentle touch with a sick child, the way both women had transformed royal engagement from obligation into genuine connection. But the comparison went deeper than fashion choices or public appearances. Diana had died before she could fulfill her potential as a force for change within the monarchy. She had shown glimpses of what the royal family could become, more open, more compassionate, more connected to ordinary people's lives. But her life had been cut short before those visions could be fully realized. Catherine, in many ways, had completed Diana's unfinished work. She had taken the compassionate approach Diana pioneered and refined it, made it sustainable, turned it into lasting change rather than dramatic gestures. Elizabeth had watched this evolution closely. She had seen how Catherine honored Diana's memory without being consumed by it, how she had learned from Diana's mistakes while building on her innovations. Most importantly, she had seen how Catherine could bridge the gap between royal tradition and modern expectations. The will's revelation suggested that Elizabeth viewed Catherine not just as Diana's successor, but as her superior, someone who could achieve what Diana had dreamed of while maintaining the stability and dignity that the monarchy required. Royal historians noted that this represented a profound shift in how the monarchy viewed its own future, not as continuation of ancient bloodlines and inherited privilege, but as an institution that could be strengthened by choosing the right people, regardless of their birth. Diana had shown that royal blood wasn't necessary for royal impact. Catherine had proven that royal blood wasn't even always the best choice. The secret meetings that shaped a legacy. As details of the will continued to emerge through carefully controlled leaks and insider accounts, a picture began to form of Elizabeth's final years as a time of intense evaluation and decision-making. Sources within the palace revealed a series of private meetings between the Queen and Catherine that had gone largely unnoticed by the press and public. These weren't formal audiences or official briefings. They were personal conversations. Grandmother to daughter-in-law, monarch to future monarch. Elizabeth sharing not just her expectations for the crown's future, but her fears about its survival. One particularly significant meeting reportedly took place in September 2022, just weeks before Elizabeth's death. Catherine had been summoned to Balmoral for what palace schedules listed as a private audience regarding charitable patronages. But according to those present, the conversation ranged far beyond charity work. Elizabeth spoke about the challenges facing the monarchy, public skepticism, changing social attitudes, the need for the crown to evolve without losing its essential character. She asked Catherine direct questions about her vision for the royal family's future, her thoughts on balancing tradition with progress, her willingness to take on responsibilities that might far exceed anything she had previously imagined. Catherine's responses apparently impressed the Queen deeply. Rather than offering platitudes or deferring to others' wisdom, she provided thoughtful, detailed answers. She had clearly given serious consideration to these issues. More importantly, her solutions balanced respect for royal tradition with genuine understanding of contemporary challenges. By the meeting's end, sources suggest Elizabeth had made her decision, not just about Catherine's role in the family, but about her role in the monarchy's survival. The will that shocked the world wasn't a sudden impulse or emotional gesture. It was a culmination of careful evaluation and strategic planning by a monarch who had spent 70 years learning to read people's true character, the secrets buried behind palace walls. The revelation of the will's contents raised uncomfortable questions about who within the royal household had been aware of Elizabeth's intentions and why they had chosen to remain silent. Palace insiders painted a picture of carefully compartmentalized information, with only a handful of senior advisors knowing the full scope of the Queen's plans. Sir Edward Young, Elizabeth's private secretary, had reportedly been involved in the will's preparation, but had maintained absolute secrecy even among his closest colleagues. Royal lawyers had drafted the document under extraordinary security measures, with meetings held in private residences rather than official offices, and all documentation secured in personal safes rather than palace files. The decision to keep even senior family members largely uninformed appears to have been Elizabeth's personal choice. She understood that knowledge of her intentions would inevitably change family dynamics and relationships. Better, she apparently reasoned, to let people behave naturally until the moment when natural behavior was no longer possible. Charles had been given broad outlines but not specific details. William had been briefed on his wife's increased responsibilities but not the full extent of her inheritance. Camilla, devastatingly, appears to have been told nothing at all. This careful management of information revealed Elizabeth's understanding of human nature and family politics. She knew that knowledge of her plans would create pressure, expectations, and potentially conflicts that could undermine the very qualities she admired in Catherine. Better to let Catherine develop naturally into the role Elizabeth envisioned for her than to burden her with expectations she might feel compelled to fulfill artificially. But this strategy also created the potential for the explosive family crisis that erupted when the truth finally emerged. Elizabeth had protected the process, but couldn't protect the aftermath. Catherine's vision for a new monarchy. As the initial shock of the will's revelation began to settle, attention turned to what Catherine's enhanced role might mean for the monarchy's future direction. Her public statements, charitable initiatives, and even her choice of engagements were analyzed for clues about her vision for the crown's evolution. Early indicators suggested a focus on practical impact over ceremonial tradition. Catherine's patronages had always emphasized measurable outcomes, research funded, programs established, lives changed, rather than simply prestigious associations. This approach seemed likely to expand as her influence grew. Her work in early childhood development, in particular, represented a long-term investment in social change that aligned with Elizabeth's own belief in the monarchy's responsibility to serve the greater good. But Catherine's approach was more systematic, more evidence-based, more focused on sustainable impact than traditional royal charity work. International observers noted changes in how Catherine approached diplomatic functions as well, rather than simply representing British interests abroad. She seemed to be positioning herself as a bridge between nations and cultures. Her conversations with foreign dignitaries increasingly focused on shared challenges and collaborative solutions rather than traditional state protocol. Most significantly, her relationship with the media and public had evolved from careful management to genuine leadership. She no longer simply responded to public expectations, but began shaping them. Her statements on issues like mental health, family welfare, and social responsibility carried weight that extended far beyond her official position. This evolution suggested that Elizabeth's choice hadn't been based solely on Catherine's current capabilities, but on her potential for growth and leadership. The Queen had seen not just what Catherine was, but what she could become. And what she could become, apparently, was exactly what the monarchy needed to survive and thrive in the 21st century. Guardian of the Queen's true legacy, Queen Elizabeth II spent 70 years learning to read the hearts and minds of those around her. She witnessed the rise and fall of governments, the transformation of empires, and the evolution of her own family through triumph and scandal. In her final act as monarch, she made a choice that surprised the world but perhaps shouldn't have. She looked beyond blood and protocol, beyond tradition and expectation, and placed her trust in the person who had proven herself most worthy of it. Princess Catherine didn't inherit the throne through birth or marriage. She earned it through service, dedication, and an almost supernatural ability to embody the best qualities of royalty while remaining genuinely connected to the people she serves. The will that shattered royal tradition may have saved the monarchy itself. By choosing character over birthright, merit over precedent, Elizabeth ensured that the crown's future rests in hands capable of carrying it with both dignity and relevance. The family may never fully heal from this revelation. Camilla's heartbreak is real and profound. Charles faces impossible choices between competing loyalties. The very foundations of royal succession have been challenged. But perhaps that was exactly what Elizabeth intended. Not just to reward Catherine for her service, but to force the entire institution to confront its own assumptions about worth, power, and purpose. In choosing Catherine, Elizabeth didn't just name an heir. She defined what the monarchy must become to survive. And in doing so, she may have given the crown the greatest gift possible, a future worth inheriting. The secret is no longer secret. The trust has been granted, and the woman who began as a commoner from Berkshire now carries the hopes and dreams of a 1,000-year-old institution. Queen Elizabeth's final gamble wasn't on tradition or bloodline. It was on the transformative power of choosing the right person for the right moment in history. Time will tell if she chose correctly. But one thing is certain: the monarchy will never be the same again.